Everyone, I want to thank you for joining me for another Real Talk here with myself. And this time we have as our guest Mr. Craig Moore. I want to appreciate you, Craig, for jumping on. I know it's both Valentine's Day and the first day of early voting. So, more so, should I say, thank you to your wife for allowing you to get about 30 minutes in here with me on this, you know, two impactful things happening today. And again, thank you. You're running for office, and real quick, just tell me about the 403rd, criminal district, and what all that entails. So many people running for office, and so many different judge positions. So if you can just cover that real quick.
Sure. Well, thank you, Larry, for having me, and I'm looking forward to spending this time with you and your audience. So the 403rd Criminal District Court is one of our felony district courts here in Travis County. We have 9 district courts, and so this is just one of the 9 district courts that hears only felony cases. The 403rd means that it was the 403rd district court created by the state legislature. And the legislature basically defines each court's jurisdiction. But for the district courts here in Travis County, their jurisdiction is just Travis County. In some of the other counties, you may have a district court that hears cases from multiple counties. But the jurisdiction for the 403rd District Court is Travis County. And this court only hears felony cases that arise in Travis County. And they hear all categories of felony cases. There are 5 categories of felony cases. Your lowest being your state jail felony, then your 3rd degree, 2nd degree, 1st degree, and your capital felonies. And so this particular court hears all 5 categories of felony cases.
Okay, no, I appreciate the overview. A lot of times you have people say, "Hey, I'm running for judge, vote for me," and you're like, "Okay, so in what capacity? Where at? What are you doing?" And there's so many people, right? So I appreciate you giving that. So let's get to your family. Who are these folks?
Well, it's interesting because this is a picture that we took at the Juneteenth parade, and that is not my wife and daughter. That those are friends of mine. That's actually Judge Aurora Martinez Jones,
Okay.
Who's a friend from law school. But the 2 boys are mine, and those are 2 of my 3 boys. The oldest is Samuel. He's holding the yellow sign, and Nathan is holding the white sign. And then my youngest is David. He's not in the picture.
Okay.
It was very hot during the Juneteenth parade, and so we decided to leave him home.
Understood.
But I do want to mention my wife is Amanda, and she's also a lawyer. We met in law school, and so she and my youngest are not in that picture.
Okay, no, good. I was just going to ask you too. I was going to say, hey, give us some information about the wife and the other one, right? And I, it's probably like me, right? My wife and the kids, they kind of just maneuver and do their own thing while I'm out and about and so forth. And it's always good to have that support, right? When you're going to have that kind of hectic schedule, not only being in the bench for you and engaging with the community, but also having to go out and understand the community, right? So you're able to really understand that environment. So when it does come to you on the bench, you're able to say, okay, you're coming from this neighborhood. I kind of know what the circumstances are from there. So you're making a decision based upon the circumstances and not just making a decision based off of what you've heard. And a lot of times we know when you hear stuff, it may not necessarily be the full story, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. And that's one of the reasons why, as a candidate running for a countywide seat, I think it's important to go to all the different areas in Travis County, not just in Austin, but I love spending time in Manor and Pflugerville, places in Western Travis County, Del Valley. So I think it's important for a countywide official to make sure he or she is present throughout the county, not just in Austin.
Oh yeah, I have seen you, and I know some of my other council members have seen you over these last 2 years when I was in the seat, right? This, so I can vouch for that. You have been out, you have been engaged, and you have been networking, and not networking in that negative sense where most people are just trying to make friends and in contact so they can call them and ask for a favor, but networking in the sense of, remember when you're coming off of the seat for the sobering center,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Trying to identify who you wanted to recommend to try to backfill your position. And that means a lot. Most people don't do that. Most people, they just come out the seat and just leave it up to, the county and the city to make a decision of who gets replaced versus trying to vet someone that they feel would be a good replacement.
Right.
So let's get into a little bit of your background, your stories, your upbringing, and your credentials. All that good stuff, right?
Yeah.
Of everything about you. So let me pull up some of these banners here, right? So tell me about this. You worked as a civil litigator here in the Austin area, as you already mentioned before, and then in the Travis County Attorney's Office, working in misdemeanor defenses. So what's the takeaway here? A lot of times, especially if I'm not a lawyer, I've never been a judge, right? I don't know those spaces, but again, these are terms that are highlighted and used. What is that supposed to mean to me when I'm going to vote for you or someone else?
Sure. Well, it speaks to the breadth of my qualifications. And so when I moved to Austin to attend the University of Texas, I ultimately received my law degree and my master's degree in public affairs. And after I graduated from law school, I worked as a civil litigator, which basically means you are a civil trial attorney. And I did that type of work. I represented insurance companies. I worked with oil and gas companies. I would represent high net worth individuals. And so I did that type of work for two different law firms. But I really had a yearning to engage in public service. And so I decided to accept an offer at the county attorney's office. So I switched from the criminal side, from the civil side to the criminal side. And in Travis County, we have two different prosecuting agencies, the county attorney and the district attorney. The county attorney prosecutes misdemeanor cases, and the district attorney prosecutes felony cases. And so I joined the county attorney handling misdemeanor cases, and I did that work for almost 2 years. I was quickly recruited to the district attorney's office to handle felony cases, and that's where I spent the majority of my career.
Okay. Yeah, and I got that listed right here. Pulled that, saw that from your resume. So I found that interesting. And again, just that difference of the county side versus the district side, the different cases that come there, the different type of things you have to oversee and manage, right?
Right.
So tell me here, I'm gonna go down to some of your personal
Sure.
credentials here, right? So what is supposed to mean? The Judicial Academy of the National, and you had listed and said that this is something that's key. Most judges don't have this type of training. So what is so special about this training?
Absolutely. So this was a program that was created by the National Judicial College, which is considered the top training academy for judges. And so I went through this program in 2018. Basically, they select 40 lawyers that aspire to become judges from across the country. And so I was fortunate to be selected as one of the 40. There are only 2 people from Texas, and I was one of them. And so there you're seeing a picture of my classmates, lawyers from all across the country. And all these folks are just coming because they want to be judges. They want to serve the public in that capacity. And so the program is housed at the National Judicial College in Reno, Nevada. And so they provide a scholarship for me to come out there. And I spent a week just learning with some of the top legal minds in the country and some judges who've been on the bench for many, many years. It was just great training, learning from judges who've been handling this type of work for many, many years. And I'll tell you, Larry, this type of training you can't receive from a textbook. You can't get from a law school class. You are 101 with judges, and they're talking about their cases. They're talking about what to expect when you become a judge. They're talking about what you need to do in terms of having the right judicial temperament. giving us real world examples of situations that they were in and how they dealt with them. And the training was just incredible. And I believe I am the only judicial candidate that went through that training program. And so and again, that just really speaks to the breadth of my qualifications and experience, because I went through this program knowing that ultimately I wanted to serve the public in this capacity. So no, it was a great program in Nevada.
No, it sounds like it was. If I applied, to or correlated to my military experience, right? It's the difference between, as you said, the book smarts and street smarts, and you hear that a lot of times by people. But what does it really mean? The street smarts, in this sense, going to the course, hearing from others that have been in that type of seat, have those different types of decisions that they had to make. You're able to really understand and glean how they came to a certain decision that probably would have been different from you, right? But you're also able to find out and understand that second and third order of impact from a decision that they made. Now when you're going and have to make that decision, right, you have more information to feed off of than just the textbook answer or response. And most of us that have gone to school, right, we only get graded on what the textbook answer is. We don't necessarily learn what real world situations are and what you really need to do in life, right? We're just told textbook. So that's good to understand that. And for people looking at the photo, if you're looking to see if he was actually in the photo, if he wasn't sick that day, he's from the second row to the top, right next to that 084 that's on the window. So he was present, right?
I was present.
He was present. Hey, that's key. So I'll highlight something else from your personal experience. Says here you served on the state bar of Texas District 9 in the grievance committee chair. What's key about that?
Well, this is great because, even though I've never served as a judge in an elected position, I certainly have served in different capacities that have allowed me to play a role as a fact finder, where I am listening to evidence and applying the rules or the procedures or the law to that evidence. And so I've served on 3 different state bar committees. I was appointed by the state bar president, and the current committee that I'm serving on is the District 9 Grievance Committee. And this is basically a committee that adjudicates grievances filed by people against their former attorney. And so if they have any issues where they are trying to address and indicate that the lawyer has in some way violated their ethical duties, then we are the body that would hear those particular types of complaints. And so each district has a chair who is basically the, I guess, presiding officer over all the different subcommittees. And so I am the chair of the District 9 area, which is geographically located here in Central Texas. And so we hear grievances that arise from attorneys and clients in Central Texas.
Got it. So would I be wrong to say that this committee that you serve on, in a way, it hopefully keeps someone like you humble, and meaning you, in a sense, judges, sometimes we see judges getting too high on their own, they're on their own seat, right? And they think that their decision is all that, they're not going to be wrong and so forth. I mean, does this role, this position, then, my assumption, you're seeing how decisions are basically being made from a personal standpoint and not really looking at the person, the circumstances, and then what the law can allow, and then kind of going back and saying the decision you made, why did you make this type of decision? And it might have been too aggressive. And you probably were acting more as, I'm the judge, you're in my court, I didn't like the way you looked at me, or what you said, or how you said something to me, which, a lot of times in the minority, underserved, underrepresented populations, that is one of the biggest kind of concerns and fears that community has when it's going towards in front of a judge.
Yeah. I think that is a big problem with a lot of elected officials when they serve for a long time. That kind of goes to their head. And so the 403rd District Court, for example, it doesn't belong to any particular judge. It doesn't belong to any particular party. It belongs to the people. And as a judge, I am simply the elected representative of the people to adjudicate cases on their behalf. And so, as a judge, and when people come to court, particularly, folks accused of crime, sometimes they don't know if their defense attorneys is really going to work hard for them.
Mm-hmm.
They think the prosecutor is out to get them. At least they look at the person who's wearing the robe and sitting on the bench, and they're hoping that this person gives them a fair shake.
Right.
I mean, that's what you want in the judge, someone who's going to be fair, someone who's going to follow the law, someone who is going to safeguard the constitutional protections for people accused of crimes. That's essentially what you want in a judge. And so this experience serving as the chair of the District 9 committee, as well as my service as a commissioner on the Civil Service Commission for the City of Austin, and the other type of work that I've done, I think it's really important to keep that humble spirit and know that you are there serving the public, and your job is to make sure that everyone is treated fairly. Everyone is treated with respect. Everyone is treated with decency, and that the rule of law is applied and followed.
No, sounds good. You already brought it up, so I'm going to pull it up right here. You served on the City of Austin's Civil Service Commission.
Yes.
And a lot of times I want, if you could speak to this. I know when I was serving in the seat as mayor for the city of Manor, right, especially when the whole George Floyd situations and protests were going on, and it was a lot of the piece of you're just going to try to take care of your own, meaning our employees, right, our staff. You're just going to try to take care of your own. And so how does this Civil Service Commission work? I mean, is it a thing of just trying to take care of our own, or is it a thing of trying to take care of the individuals? How does that really work?
Yeah, well, this is the Civil Service Commission falls under the City of Austin, and it's basically a creation out of agreements between the city and the unions representing police officers, EMS workers, firefighters. And so when there is an issue that comes up where an employee wants to file a grievance or something of that nature, then this is the particular body that they would address those issues with. Let me give you an example. If a firefighter or a police officer takes an exam to qualify for a promotion, maybe they want to take the qualifying exam to be a corporal or a lieutenant, and they have a problem with how the test was administered, or perhaps they have problems with the answers on the test, then they would bring those issues to the Civil Service Commission. And so the individual firefighter or police officer would be there, a representative from the City of Austin would be there. And basically we would hear the first responders, evidence from the first responder. We would hear evidence from the City of Austin. And then we would make a decision and apply the rules and the policy to the facts of the case. So we all sit as fact finders. When I was on the commission, there were 3 of us. And so basically we would hear the evidence, we would rule on evidence, and ultimately make a decision.
Okay. So it sounds almost like our ethics committee that we have for city council, where if council makes a decision and the constituent feels that it was an unjust decision, violated any of our ordinances or policies and so forth, they can go through the ethics commission, and the ethics commission could actually, if they found justification, overrule in that special case. Yeah,
that's the great thing about the city of Austin, Travis County, the state of Texas. The whole point of having that due process where people are given an opportunity to be heard in a fair and unbiased and neutral setting, I think is key to any function of government.
Got it. And so let's go back to your attorney profile here. So you manage several diversion programs, mental health, substance use. And you said how does this relate to the criminal court that you're looking at?
Oh my goodness. Well, So, as a judge, I hope to expand our diversion programs. I am a big believer in diversion, in rehabilitation, and in treatment. And so basically, I supervise two programs, one that focused on defendants who were living with some type of mental illness, as well as defendants who were charged with the felony DWI offense, which basically means it's their third DWI offense.
Right.
And basically and we have different diversion programs. Not only did I manage those two diversion programs, but I also worked in the diversion division at the district attorney's office. And there are different ways that diversion can be defined. Some people will define diversion as any program by which you can avoid being punished for the underlying charges. For example, the DWI, the felony DWI diversion program, if someone successfully completed that program, then their case would be reduced from a felony to a misdemeanor case. You'll have other diversion programs where if they successfully complete the diversion program, their case would be dismissed. And that means a big thing. That's a big deal if you're either reducing a case from a felony to a misdemeanor, or if you are outright dismissing a case. Those benefits are huge to a defendant because a felony conviction on your record has lifetime consequences.
Right.
And so being able to avoid that type of punishment and divert you from that type of punishment is a great benefit to many people.
Sounds good. So I'm a highlight a comment here that we received, and so I'm a caveat onto that with my follow-up question to this, right? And so I have here from Emily Hill, the diversion programs currently isn't enough, right? And so this goes to something that I strongly believe in, which is what you do before you get in the seat is a good determiner of what you'll do when you get in the new seat. Right. A lot of times people want to go into a higher position of influence, of authority. And, a lot of people don't look at what they've done, right, before they try to get into this seat. What have they done in the community? What have they done themselves professionally and so forth? And so I think going to this diversion program, if you are in this seat, right, and it's not just about what you do with your docket. It's not just about what you do when the person comes before you in your court, right? What else, how are you going to utilize that position, that elected official position beyond the seat, beyond the bench, right? So that you don't necessarily only have the option of a diversion program. You've implemented other things. You're working with other things so that people don't have to come to your court, hopefully.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I think it speaks to the comment from Councilmember Hill. For example, the 403rd District Court, they have what's called the Youthful Offender Support Court, and I'm a big believer in working with youthful offenders and young people. But these are young people who've, for some reason or another, they've been in trouble and they've been arrested. There are a lot of kids and young people in our community that have not been arrested, but they are still at risk. They still need help. They still need mentors. They need people in positions of power to come out and talk to them, tell them that despite your situations and despite your circumstances, that you can make it. And I think that's really important for someone who holds elected office to maintain that type of philosophy, that you've got to go out into the community. You have to meet people where they are. You can't just sit in the courthouse and not come back out into the community until you're running for re-election or you're asking for campaign donations.
Right.
Too often we have our elected officials do that. You've got to stay engaged in the community. You have to work with people. And I think that is so important. Our elected officials, particularly our judges, they can play a key role in breaking down this school to prison pipeline if they just work together and in a collaborative way with community stakeholders. I'm a big believer in that. There is always more that can be done to improve the situation that we're in. And so that's a philosophy that I've always had as a community advocate. That's a philosophy that I will continue to have as a judge.
Okay. Okay, no, definitely. And so, with that being said, I'm gonna highlight some things from your campaign site right here,
Yeah.
right? So, your activities in the community, right? Awards that have been bestowed, education, the work you've done. Some of this stuff we've already talked about. But I mean, anything on here that you would say, hey, definitely this alludes to what I'm talking about as far as being out engaged with the community. That is not necessarily tied to my job or tied to a position I was in. This is something where I went above and beyond because I felt I needed to be present in the community.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, it highlights a lot of the political involvement, and judicial races are partisan races, and so I'm proud of my work with the Travis County Democratic Party. But I'm also very proud of my work in a community, not related to working as an attorney, not related to my political party, but just working in the community because I want to give back and I want to serve. And so, working on the city of Austin's mayor, the task force on institutional racism, working with the Sobering Center. I'm one of the founding board members of the Austin Travis County Sobering Center. Working with the Hogg Foundation on mental health. These are things that are not tied to my work as an attorney, but they're more about my desire to serve the public and to give back and to find spaces where I can use my legal training and experience to help organizations. And so I think we certainly need more people geared that way, that they can use their talents to help these different organizations. There are so many nonprofit organizations, boards that are in need of great people to serve. And so I'm always a big supporter of people serving with our nonprofit organizations to help them. Use your talents to help your community, because I feel like the community has done so much for me. I certainly need to give back.
Right. No, definitely. And I like the part that you said that even though you may be associated with the party, you're in a nonpartisan position, right? And I think a lot of times some elected officials forget that. I know I had my party that I was associated with, but I never, in my official capacity as the mayor, right, or as a council member, allowed that to influence the decisions that I made for my constituents. Because in that position, I'm supposed to take care of everybody, right?
Everybody.
And so I think that's the key thing that you did say, which is, hey, I'm not ashamed to highlight what part I am with, and I may not be associated with the party that you desire. At the end of the day, it's more about, am I actually considering your situation, your issues, your needs, and looking at the law that's black and white,
Yeah.
right? That in applying it in the best way to support you and take care of you, and take care of others, right? So that's key. And I know we only got a couple more minutes before I have to cut out of here. So I got two more things before I hand you the mic for any last remarks you might have to say.
Sure.
So you have this listed here, right? All these collaborations. And so tell me, how much collaboration did you actually do? Because I know some people, they're like, yeah, I had touch points on all this stuff, and you call those people, I'm like, I don't know who that person is, right? So, so tell me about this. You have this listed in your resume, engaging with all these different departments, and I know that for people that really engage with those different departments, they get that cross knowledge of how they think over there, how they operate over there, in another way of potentially sometimes being very beneficial, as you said, in mitigating some things that potentially could arise because you have relationships and you know how they operate. So if you don't mind, just real quick, like how deep was your actual involvement?
Yeah, well, I actually worked for the FBI when I was working on my master's program. I spent a summer in Washington, D.C. at headquarters doing great work with them. But more so, my work as a prosecutor, we as a state prosecutor, oftentimes we have to work with our federal partners on criminal cases. And so, the FBI, the DEA, the ATF. These are federal law enforcement agencies that we may have to work a case with. For example, there may be a federal case, a federal drug case, and out of that federal drug investigation, there are also state crimes. And so there will be a federal prosecutor handling part of the case, and then handling the state offenses. That's where I would come in as a state prosecutor. And so oftentimes we would have to work with the U.S. Attorney's Office handling these types of cases. And then not only with our federal law enforcement partners, but also our statewide police law enforcement partners, the Texas Rangers, the Texas Parks and Wildlife. Those are law enforcement agencies. I've had to do grand jury investigations where the Texas Rangers led the investigation. They do great work. It's not just Walker, Texas Ranger. They do a lot. They do some great work here and around the state, particularly with investigating public officials. And so, my work involved working with federal and state law enforcement agencies and prosecutors.
No, that's great to hear, because it definitely sounds more than they dropped off a packet on my desk, or I had to make a phone call and ask a question, right? So yes. I think that's key to highlight that, right?
It is.
And so lastly, going out on this great opportunity, again, I said you're always out and about. I know most of these photos are of you campaigning. So where are you going to be next? What does your calendar look like?
Well, that's interesting. Only a few of those photos are from my campaign. The top photo, I was speaking at a rally in front of City Hall. The other photo, I was marching in a rally. And then the bottom photos are all the campaign photos. And so, early voting has already begun, and it's going to go for the rest of this week and through next Friday. And so I will certainly try to get out and touch as many people as I can, showing up at early voting sites to engage with voters to the extent that I can, and certainly continue to talk to people about my campaign. So, even though, early voting has already started, we're still, sprinting to the finish line. And so I am using this time to engage with every single voter that I can touch.
Sounds good. Well, again, I appreciate you taking time out. I think I went, looks like here almost 4 minutes over the 30-minute mark. So, tell the wife, don't hold it against me. And you have a great evening, and best wishes to you and your campaign.
Thank you, sir. I enjoyed it. Have a good night.
You too.